The sound of engines thundered across the Nevada desert as the sun dipped low, painting the Air Force Base in shades of copper and fire. New recruits filed off the transport truck wide-eyed, nervous, and full of dreams about the skies they were about to conquer. Among them walked Lieutenant Claire Donovan, her posture upright, her expression unreadable. She didn't smile, didn't talk, didn't try to blend in. The others laughed, joked, and snapped pictures, but Claire simply adjusted her duffel bag over her shoulder and looked toward the runway. Her eyes fixed on a line of fighter jets gleaming under the Sun-Phi 22 Raptors, sleek and deadly, symbols of the power she now served. To the rest of the squadron, she was just the new girl. A rookie, fresh from flight school, too quiet to be interesting. In a world where swagger often spoke louder than skill, her silence made her an outsider before she even began. That evening, during orientation, Colonel Jack Haskins stood before the recruits, his deep voice echoing in the hangar. "Welcome to the 114th Tactical Fighter Squadron," he said. "You're here because someone up there believes you're the best of the best. But understand this out here, you earn respect through action, not talk. The sky doesn't care about your background." As he spoke, Claire stood motionless, hands behind her back, eyes forward. Haskins' gaze swept the lineup and stopped briefly on her. He noticed the faint scar near her jaw, the sharpness in her gaze. Something about her didn't fit the rookie mold. After the briefing, other pilots gathered in small circles, introducing themselves. "So where'd you train, Donovan?" asked Lieutenant Marcus Hawk Jensen, a tall, confident man with a smirk that could charm the air out of a cockpit. "Edwards Flight Academy," Claire replied simply. Hawk chuckled. "You sound like a robot. You ever laugh?" Claire glanced at him. "Only when there's a reason." Her dry tone caught him off guard, and for a split second, his grin faltered. But he shrugged it off, deciding she was just shy or uptight. Either way, she didn't seem like competition. The next morning, the squadron began their simulation drills. Each pilot was tasked with executing a standard evasion maneuver sequence under heavy virtual fire. For most rookies, it was routine chaos alarms blaring, fake missiles locking, panic filling their voices. But when it was Claire's turn, the control room fell silent. Her movements were impossibly smooth. She twisted, rolled, and dove with perfect precision, her fighter model flipping through enemy locks, like a ghost through fog. Every motion was exact, controlled, confident, not experimental like a trainee's, but instinctive, polished. The instructors exchanged glances. Colonel Haskins leaned forward in disbelief. "Who taught her those moves?" "She's just following protocol, sir," one of the trainers replied uncertainly. "Protocol?" Haskins muttered. "That's not protocol, that's combat instinct." When the simulation ended, Claire landed flawlessly and exited the simulator without a hint of pride. The room buzzed with whispers. Hawk looked impressed. Captain Reed, the squadron's second-in-command, looked annoyed. "Lucky run," Reed muttered. "Luck doesn't fly like that," Hawk said quietly. That night, while others celebrated their first day at the base's bar, Claire stayed behind in her dorm. The hum of distant engines filled the silence. She pulled open a drawer and took out a small leather pouch. Inside was an old, creased photograph of a silver aircraft marked with a foreign insignia and a woman in flight gear standing beside it. The woman was her years younger, with the same calm eyes. She stared at the picture for a long moment, then traced a finger over the foreign emblem and whispered something in another language soft, almost like a prayer. Then she tucked it away again, locking the drawer. The following day, the training continued. Claire was assigned to fly as Hawk's wingman for a tactical exercise over the Nevada range. Her radio voice was steady, her commands crisp. Even Hawk, usually cocky and unpredictable, followed her lead without realizing it. When they landed, he couldn't help but ask, "Where'd you really learn to fly like that?" Claire looked at him, expression unreadable. "In the air," she said. He laughed, thinking she was joking, but there was something in her tone, something that made him realize she wasn't. Later, during debrief, Colonel Haskins reviewed flight data. Claire's reflex times were near instantaneous. Her fuel efficiency was military textbook perfect. Every tactical decision she made was one step ahead of everyone else's. It was as if she'd done this for years combat flying, not training. Haskins frowned and flipped through her personnel file. It was spotless. Too spotless. No red flags, no disciplinary notes, no references beyond the standard excellent performance at Academy. But it felt off like a blank slate drawn too neatly. He called for background verification, but the system returned nothing unusual. Still, his gut told him otherwise. A few days later, the squadron underwent a low-altitude formation drill. Midway through the exercise, turbulence from a nearby storm caused chaos. One jet stabilizer malfunctioned, sending the aircraft spiraling downward. The pilot screamed over the radio, "Mayday, Mayday! I'm going down." Before anyone could react, Claire's voice cut through the comms sharp and calm. "Alpha 2, disengage throttle. Nose up, roll 30 degrees right." The pilot followed instinctively. The spin stopped. Claire flew in beside him, guiding him back to level flight with precision. After landing, the saved pilot ran to her. "How did you know exactly what to do?" She shrugged slightly. "You said you were spinning." He blinked. That's not how rookies react. Colonel Haskins overheard everything. That night, as rain hammered against his office window, he stared at her file again. "Claire Donovan," he muttered. "Who are you, really?" Meanwhile, word spread around the base. Pilots whispered about the rookie who flew like a legend. Some admired her skill. Others, like Reed, felt threatened. "She's too calm," Reed said one evening, nursing a drink. "You ever notice that? No nerves, no adrenaline. Either she's not human, or she's done this before." Hawk shrugged. "You're just mad she's better than you." Reed's glare was icy. "One day, we'll find out what she's hiding." That night, in her darkened quarters, Claire couldn't sleep. Outside, lightning cracked across the desert. The flash illuminated her reflection in the window, strong, steady, but lonely. She closed her eyes, memories flooding back. Roaring skies, tracer fire, a radio voice shouting in another language, an order she refused to follow. Then the sound of silence, the kind that comes after doing the right thing and losing everything for it. She whispered to herself, "This time, I'll stay invisible. No past, no mistakes." But deep inside, she knew the truth her past had wings, and sooner or later, the sky would remember her name. The desert stretched endlessly beneath the morning sun, a canvas of heat and silence. The hangar doors opened with a metallic groan, and the smell of jet fuel filled the air. For the 114th Squadron, today was supposed to be a simple, routine individual test flights to assess pilot readiness. For Lieutenant Claire Donovan, it was her first real flight in a U.S. Air Force Raptor. "Donovan," Colonel Haskins barked across the tarmac, "you're up first. Show us what that academy training looks like." She saluted sharply. "Yes, sir." Her voice was calm, almost too calm. Hawk Jensen, standing beside his fighter, grinned. "Try not to crash, rookie," he teased. Claire adjusted her helmet, sliding it on without a word. "Try to keep up next time," she replied evenly, climbing into the cockpit. Hawk blinked, then laughed. There was something about her, an intensity that seemed to cut through even the Nevada heat. Minutes later, the engines roared to life. The Raptor's turbine screamed as she accelerated down the runway, the jet lifting gracefully into the golden air. From the control tower, Haskins watched her ascend. "She flies like she's been doing it for years," one of the flight officers murmured. "She shouldn't even know half those handling angles," Haskins replied, narrowing his eyes. "Let's see what happens when something does go wrong." He didn't have to wait long. At 20,000 feet, without warning, a violent thunderstorm formed out of the western desert. The weather had been forecast as clear, but the clouds came rolling in, dark and electric, cutting visibility to zero. "Control, this is Alpha 1, Claire's voice came through steady. "Encountering unexpected turbulence. Lightning forming eastbound. Abort the climb," a controller ordered. "Return to base." She adjusted her flight path, but a sudden burst of static ripped through her headset. The cockpit lights flickered, alarms blaring, engine fault, hydraulic pressure drop, radar offline. Her jet shuddered violently. "Alpha 1, do you read?" No response. Only the sound of wind roaring past her canopy. In the control room, Haskins' jaw tightened. "We've lost telemetry," an officer said. "She's in the storm." "Get her back online," Haskins snapped. But Claire's jet was already spiraling downward through black clouds, lightning flashing around her like angry veins of fire. The aircraft bucked, alarms screamed. A lesser pilot would have panicked. She didn't. Her breathing remained slow, deliberate. Stabilizer malfunction. "No hydraulics," she murmured to herself. "All right, come on, girl. Talk to me." Her hands moved over the controls like a pianist playing from memory. She rerouted power, bypassed the main circuit, and manually adjusted the air brakes to balance drag. The jet responded sluggishly, but it responded. Lightning cracked nearby, illuminating her face focused, calm, emotionless. Her voice came through faintly on the comms. "This is Alpha 1. Systems partial. Attempting emergency recovery. Donovan." "Eject," Haskins shouted. "That's an order." "Negative, sir," she said evenly. "I can save her? Save her? You're falling out of the sky." But Claire didn't answer. Instead, she nosed the fighter downward deliberately, picking up speed. The radar altimeter shrieked as she descended through the clouds 3,000 feet. 2,000. At the last moment, she rolled hard left, cutting through the storm wall into open air. The jet screamed across the desert, smoke trailing from its right wing. She leveled out and coasted toward the base, guiding the crippled aircraft down like she'd done it 1,000 times before. The landing was rough, the tires smoking on contact, but she brought it home. When the jet finally stopped, the silence was deafening. Then the air erupted with cheers from the crew. Hawk sprinted across the tarmac, laughing and shaking his head. "Rookie, you trying to give us heart attacks?" Claire climbed down slowly, sweat streaking her forehead, her face pale but calm. "Just another flight," she said. Haskins strode toward her, his expression unreadable. "You disobeyed a direct order to eject," he said. "Yes, sir," she replied. "And you saved a $40 million aircraft," Hawk added with a grin. Haskins shot him a look before turning back to Claire. "That wasn't Academy skill, Lieutenant. That was combat instinct." "Where'd you learn that?" Claire met his eyes. "In training, sir." But her tone carried something else, something that made Haskins pause. There was a familiarity in her movements, a poise born not from training, but experience. That night, after the debrief, Haskins couldn't let it go. He sat in his office, long after everyone had left, staring at her file again. Everything was perfectly formatted, every record clean. It looked more like a script than a history. He called the Pentagon database administrator. "I want a full background audit on Lieutenant Claire Donovan," he said. Birth records, training files, every line. Sir, the man replied cautiously, her data's already marked as verified by someone higher than your clearance level. Haskins froze. Higher than mine? Yes, sir. Classified under Section Delta clearance. He hung up slowly. No rookie had that kind of protection. Something was off, deeply off. The next day, Claire walked into the hangar to find a small crowd waiting for her. Pilots clapped, slapped her back, and called her the Storm Tamer. Hawk handed her a steaming mug of coffee and said, "You've officially made us all look bad." She smiled faintly. "I didn't mean to." Reed, however, wasn't impressed. "Luck," he muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Next time she won't be so lucky." Claire didn't react. She simply looked at him once, quiet, steady, and walked past. Reed felt something strange in that look, like being measured and dismissed at the same time. Later that evening, Claire sat alone near the hangar, the desert wind carrying the faint smell of rain. She looked up at the stars, cold, infinite, familiar. A memory surfaced. Another night, another base, another language. "Captain Markova, you are ordered to fire. There are civilians below." "I will not do this." "That's treason." "Then I am a traitor." The memory faded, but the ache remained. She clenched her fists, shaking off the ghost of her past. She was Claire Donovan, now an American pilot, a fresh start. No one would ever know who she used to be. But the universe has a way of refusing silence. 2 days later, an unfamiliar black SUV arrived at the base. 2 men in dark suits stepped out, intelligence officers. They went straight to Colonel Haskins' office. One of them placed a folder on his desk. "We're reviewing all personnel involved in the recent test incident," the man said. "Especially Lieutenant Donovan." Haskins frowned. "Why? She saved that jet." The agent smiled thinly. "That's exactly why." After they left, Haskins opened the folder. Inside were satellite photos, fragments of old reports, and one grainy image, an Eastern fighter jet with a female pilot standing beside it. The caption was blurred, but the face was unmistakable. Claire Donovan, or someone who looked exactly like her. That night, as thunder rolled across the desert again, Claire sat by the window of her dorm, watching lightning split the sky. Her reflection glowed against the glass, a ghost between 2 worlds. She whispered to herself, "You can't run forever." Her phone buzzed a secure message. 3 words, unsigned. "They're looking again." She froze, heart pounding. Then she deleted the message, powered off the phone, and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she'd fly again, pretending nothing was wrong. But far above the clouds, fate was already circling back toward her, just like an enemy fighter waiting to strike. The Nevada mornings were cold now, wind slicing through the hangars as dawn broke over the mountains. The 114th Squadron had grown tighter since the storm incident, except for one pilot who still watched Claire Donovan with narrowed eyes. Captain Reed had been second in command long before Claire arrived. He was proud, sharp, and competitive to the point of obsession. Every move Claire made, the way she flew, the calm she carried, made him feel smaller, invisible. And he hated her for it. But the others? They were starting to admire her. Especially Lieutenant Marcus "Hawk" Jensen. Training that week was relentless. Dogfight simulations, low-altitude flying, and night navigation drills kept everyone on edge. Claire handled it all with quiet precision, never boasting, never faltering. One afternoon, during a tactical exercise, Hawk found himself paired with her again. "Donovan, you take lead," he said over the comms, his voice teasing. "Let's see if that storm stunt wasn't just luck." "Copy that," she replied. They launched side by side, slicing into the blue. The world below shrank away until it was just the 2 of them, and the sound of engines screaming across the sky. "Bandits at 3 o'clock, Hawk called. 2 targets. You take 1. "Negative," Claire said calmly. "I'll draw them both. You flank from the sun." He hesitated. "That's suicide. Trust me." Before he could argue, she peeled off, diving straight toward the simulated enemy aircraft. Her jet moved like lightning sharp, aggressive, impossible to predict. She baited both targets, forcing them into pursuit, and looped behind one in a perfect split S-turn. Hawk caught the second from above, his missile lock flashing green. Both targets eliminated. When they landed, the squadron burst into cheers. That was insane. Hawk laughed, pulling off his helmet. "You're a damn ghost in the sky." Claire smiled faintly. "Just following the mission." But Hawk could tell she wasn't just following anything. She was leading it. Over the following days, their bond grew naturally. They began spending long hours in the hangar, running through maneuvers, analyzing flight patterns. Hawk was loud, easygoing, and endlessly curious. Claire was the opposite, disciplined, quiet, yet oddly open around him in ways she wasn't with anyone else. He noticed small things, how she flinched at the sound of foreign news broadcasts, how her hand instinctively traced invisible patterns on her flight gloves, like muscle memory from a different aircraft. One evening, as the sun set behind the airfield, Hawk asked her, "Why do you fly?" She looked at him for a moment, and out toward the horizon. "Because the sky doesn't judge," she said softly. "Up there, it doesn't matter who you are, only how you fly." Hawk smiled. "Sounds poetic." "It's not," she replied. "It's survival." But the peace didn't last. Captain Reed watched their friendship with disgust. Every time he saw them laugh or walk side by side, his resentment grew. He wanted command, attention, glory, and instead, everyone was talking about her. "She's manipulating you," he told Hawk one night in the barracks. "You think she's clean?" "Nobody flies like that without years of real combat." Hawk frowned. "She's just better than you." "Deal with it." Reed leaned forward. "You really believe she's some rookie from Edwards Academy? Look at her. Listen to her accent, barely noticeable, but not American. I ran her ID through 2 systems. It's fake." Hawk's eyes hardened. "That's a serious accusation." "Then check for yourself," Reed said. "But don't say I didn't warn you." The next day, Hawk couldn't shake the thought. He waited until Claire was out training, then found her locker. He wasn't proud of it, but curiosity burned too deep. Inside, everything was neatly organized: flight gloves, manuals, a single worn photo folded carefully into a notebook. He opened it. It showed a younger Claire, same eyes, same quiet expression, but in a different uniform. The jet behind her bore markings he didn't recognize. And written on the back, in another language, were 4 words he couldn't read. He felt a chill. When she returned, he quickly closed the locker, pretending nothing happened. But she noticed instantly. "You were looking for something?" she asked, her tone calm, but her eyes sharp. Hawk hesitated. "No, I was just checking if you were on the flight roster." She studied him for a moment. "Be careful where curiosity takes you, Lieutenant," she said quietly. "Sometimes you won't like what you find." Her words lingered like smoke. That evening, during a squadron dinner, the tension between Reed and Claire boiled over. "Let's toast to our hero rookie," Reed sneered, raising his glass. "The girl who outflies veterans. Maybe she should be running the Air Force, huh?" "Enough," Haskins said, his tone cold. But Reed wasn't done. "You know what's funny, Colonel? Some of us had to earn our wings. Others just show up with mysterious files and perfect flight records." The room went silent. Claire set her drink down gently. If you have something to say, Captain, say it. Reed leaned forward. Where did you really learn to fly? She met his gaze without flinching. Here, same as you. He smirked. Sure, and I'm the president. Before the argument could go further, Haskins slammed his fist on the table. That's enough. One more word, and you're both grounded. Reed scowled, but fell silent. Claire stood up and left quietly, her calm composure cracking for the first time as she walked into the night. Outside, Hawk found her standing near the runway, staring up at the stars. Hey, he said gently. Don't let him get to you. Reed's just jealous. Claire didn't answer. Her eyes glimmered under the floodlights. You ever feel like the past keeps circling, waiting for you to look away so it can strike again? He frowned. What does that mean? She smiled faintly. Forget it. But Hawk couldn't. Something about her tone chilled him, a whisper of guilt, of secrets buried under medals and silence. 2 days later, during a reconnaissance drill near the Arizona border, the squadron's exercise turned into chaos. Unidentified aircraft appeared on radar fast, aggressive, flying patterns that didn't match any known training craft. Red alert. Haskins' voice thundered over comms. All units, defensive formation. Reed panicked. Those aren't friendlies? What the hell's going on? Stay tight, Claire commanded. Hawk, with me. She took point, leading the formation through evasive maneuvers. Missiles locked alarms screamed. Reed's voice broke through the static. We're surrounded. I can't. Reed, roll left now. Claire shouted. He hesitated. The delay cost him his jet took a hit, spiraling downward in smoke. Claire dove after him, overriding panic, switching frequencies. Eject, eject. Reed's voice came through, terrified. My controls are dead. Without hesitation, Claire swooped beneath his falling aircraft and released her emergency tether, forcing his cockpit to stabilize long enough for him to eject safely. Her jet barely recovered, skimming the canyon edge before regaining altitude. The unidentified aircraft vanished as quickly as they'd appeared. When the squadron landed, Reed was shaken but alive. The medics took him away in silence. Everyone knew who had saved him. Later that night, as the hangar quieted, Hawk found her again. You saved his life, he said. She shrugged. No one gets left behind. He studied her face. You flew like you've done that before combat. Real combat. Her jaw tightened. That's classified. He frowned. You mean it's true? She turned to face him. The less you know, the safer you are, Hawk. Then she walked away, her shadow long across the hangar floor. In the dark, Hawk replayed her words again and again. Somewhere between admiration and fear, he realized the truth Claire Donovan wasn't just a mystery. She was a storm waiting to break. And when it did, no one at the 114th Squadron would be untouched by it. 2 weeks after the Arizona incident, the 114th Squadron returned to regular flight drills, though nothing felt regular anymore. The airbase buzzed with whispers about the unidentified aircraft, about the rookie who flew like she'd seen combat, and about the way command refused to discuss it. Colonel Haskins avoided questions. Captain Reed, still nursing burns from his ejection, walked with a limp, but returned to duty colder, quieter, and visibly haunted. Hawk, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about what Claire had said. The less you know, the safer you are. Something big was hiding under the surface. And soon, it would erupt. The squadron briefing room was unusually tense that morning. A tall, uniformed general from D.C. General Weller stood before the pilots, a digital map projected behind him. Effective immediately, the 114th is assigned to Operation Sentinel, he announced. We've received intelligence that a rogue weapons cell has acquired prototype drones near the Mexican border. These aircraft have U.S. signatures, but they're not ours. Your mission: identify, track, and if necessary neutralize. Haskins frowned. Live combat authorization? Weller nodded. Rules of engagement. Defensive fire permitted. These drones are capable of supersonic maneuvering. Consider them hostile. Reed shifted uneasily. Hawk glanced at Claire. Her expression was unreadable. The general continued. This isn't a simulation. You'll be flying into live danger. Your rookie days are over. Claire's eyes flicked to the map. Coordinates flashed across the screen: desert canyons near the border, eerily close to where they'd seen the unknown jets before. Her pulse quickened. She knew those flight patterns too well. Hours later, the hangar roared with engines as the squadron prepared for launch. The desert heat shimmered on the tarmac, reflecting off steel wings and tinted visors. Hawk jogged beside her jet, adjusting his helmet. You okay? Fine, she said flatly. You don't look fine. Claire paused, her hand resting on the canopy frame. Hawk, if anything happens, stay on formation. Don't break off for me. He frowned. What the hell kind of talk is that? She looked him dead in the eye. Promise me. He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I promise. She sealed her helmet and climbed in, the canopy closing with a hiss. Moments later, 12 jets screamed into the sky, their silver bodies slicing through clouds like blades. 30 minutes into the mission, radar lit up. Contacts inbound, Reed reported. Multiple bogies, high speed, low altitude. Identify, Haskins ordered. Negative ID, no friendlies in the area. Copy that. Maintain formation. Hawk, Donovan, flank west. Roger, they said in unison. The air vibrated with tension. Then, in a flash of sun and shadow, 3 drones appeared from the canyon below, sleek, black, and fast. Targets locked, Reed barked. Permission to engage? Before Haskins could answer, the drones opened fire. Missiles screamed past, exploding across the sky. Break! 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 The squadron scattered, the air erupting with smoke trails and burning metal. Hawk rolled hard right, dodging a missile by inches. Reed's wingman wasn't so lucky. His jet exploded in a burst of orange flame. Eagle 4's down. Hawk shouted. Focus! Claire snapped. Stay with me? Her jet dove straight toward the canyon floor, pulling Hawk in behind her. The drones followed, twisting through the jagged rock formations with impossible precision. These things are too damn fast. Hawk yelled. They're not drones, Claire muttered under her breath. They're piloted. What? But before he could question her, one drone flipped into a reverse dive, something no unmanned craft could do, and fired directly at her. She spun her jet into a corkscrew, missiles grazing past. It wasn't random. The enemy pilot was toying with her. At command, General Weller's eyes widened as the radar lit up. Get me a visual feed, he barked. A live camera from Claire's jet came up on screen. The general froze. Son of a... Colonel Haskins turned. What is it? Weller's face darkened. That formation, they're using Phoenix patterns. Soviet-era intercept tactics. But those died out years ago. Unless, Haskins said grimly, someone who knew them. Taught them. In the air, Claire's instincts took over. She accelerated through a narrow canyon, pulling 9 gigaseconds, the force crushing her chest. Her jet's alarm screamed, but she ignored them. Claire, you're gonna black out. Hawk shouted. Hold tight. She rolled her jet sideways, clipping between 2 cliffs, so close the wingtips scraped dust. The pursuing drone followed too aggressively. Claire looped upward in a perfect high G reversal, forcing the drone to overshoot. Fox 2. Her missile streaked through the air in connected explosion. One down. The second drone veered toward Hawk. I can't shake it. He yelled. Flare left. Claire commanded. Now. He obeyed. The flare blinded the drone's sensors. In a split-second counter, she lined up her shot and fired again. The drone vanished in a cloud of fire. But the third larger and faster appeared, out of the glare of the sun. Claire, above you. Hawk screamed. Too late. The missile hit her left wing, tearing it apart. Her jet spiraled, smoke trailing. Claire. Her cum crackled. I'm fine. Ejecting. Static. Hawk's heart stopped. Back at command, the feed went dark. Signal lost, a technician said. Weller clenched his jaw. Initiate search and rescue. Now. Haskins stood frozen, his throat tight. She saved us all again. And we couldn't even protect her. But Weller's silence was heavier, like he knew something Haskins didn't. Finally, he muttered, if she's who I think she is, she doesn't need rescuing. Hours later, Hawk's jet touched down, his face pale with exhaustion and fury. He ripped off his helmet and stormed into command. You're just giving up on her? Weller turned calmly. Lieutenant Jensen, sit down. No. You don't understand. She's alive out there. Weller slammed a folder onto the table. We do understand. Better than you think. Hawk froze. Inside the folder was a photo of a younger Claire, wearing a foreign Air Force uniform, insignia blurred. She's not who you believe she is, Weller said quietly. Her real name is Elena Markova, former ace of the Russian Air Defense Force. Hawk's breath caught. That's impossible. She's American. She was born in false identity, Weller interrupted. She defected 5 years ago after a mission went south. Killed 6 enemy aircraft in one night, hers included. She vanished. We thought she was dead. He leaned forward. Until she reappeared in Nevada, calling herself Claire Donovan. The room fell silent. She's been flying under our radar literally, Weller continued. But if she survived that crash, the people who sent those drones already know she's alive, and they'll be coming for her. Meanwhile, in the desert night, Claire Elena crawled from the wreckage of her smoking jet. Her arm bled, her flight suit torn, but her eyes were sharp. Above, distant engines echoed in the darkness. She looked up, her breath steady despite the pain. They found me, she whispered. Then she reached for her sidearm, her silhouette framed by the burning wreck behind her. The storm she'd been running from had finally caught up. The desert night was cruel. Cold wind swept across the canyon floor, carrying the smell of burnt metal and jet fuel. Flames from the wreckage danced in the distance, illuminating the figure of Claire Donovan, or rather, Elena Markova, as she dragged herself up a rocky slope, blood staining her sleeve. Her breathing was ragged, but her movements were steady. Years of training kept her focused. Every sound, the chirp of insects, the distant hum of engines registered in her mind. She wasn't just surviving. She was calculating. Far above, a dark silhouette moved silently through the clouds, an enemy drone searching. Elena ducked beneath a ridge, activating the emergency beacon on her vest. But after a moment's hesitation, she switched it off. If they can track me, so can they. Her right arm throbbed from shrapnel, and her flight suit was torn. But she pressed on through the ravine, heading east toward the extraction coordinates she'd memorized. Years ago back, when she'd first defected to the U.S., it felt like a lifetime ago. Meanwhile, back at Edwards Air Base, the 114th Squadron was grounded. Colonel Haskins paced the operations room as General Weller briefed the search team. We've got 2 birds scanning the desert. No signal yet, an officer reported. Haskins slammed his fist on the table. You're telling me we're leaving one of our own out there? She's not one of ours, Weller said coldly. Hawk rose from his seat. With all due respect, sir, that's bull. She saved us twice. Weller shot him a glare. And she lied about who she is. You want to know who you were flying with? Elena Markova, Russian Air Defense Force, Calcine Vega, the ghost of Kursk. The room fell silent. Haskins frowned. You're saying she's that Vega? The one from the border incident? The same, Weller said grimly. She defected 5 years ago. We thought she'd gone dark. Turns out, she's been right under our noses training with our best. Hawk clenched his jaw. So what? She's still on our side. Weller sighed. That depends on which side she thinks she's on when they find her. Out in the desert, Alana found shelter beneath an overhang, lighting a small flare for warmth. She tore a strip from her sleeve to wrap around her arm. Her mind drifted back 5 years ago to a snowy airfield outside Moscow. She remembered the night she left everything behind, her squadron, her country, her name. Back then, she was the youngest ace in Russian history, decorated, celebrated, feared. But after witnessing her commander order an attack on civilians during a border skirmish, she refused to obey. The cost was immediate. She was branded a traitor. Her only escape was through the Sky One jet, low fuel, and a blizzard at her back. She'd crossed the Bering Strait in silence, guided only by stars. By the time U.S. radar picked her up, she was half-conscious, her aircraft nearly frozen. The Americans had offered her a deal: asylum, a new name, and a chance to serve again if she disappeared completely. She'd agreed, but she'd never imagined her past would come hunting her this way. As dawn crept over the desert, Elena's ears caught a faint rumble. She pressed against the rocks and peered up 3 dark shapes moving fast, no lights. They weren't U.S. search teams. Mercenaries, she realized. Private contractors. Russian-made drones. American funding. Someone had hired ghosts to hunt a ghost. She gritted her teeth and crawled toward a wrecked supply chute half buried in sand. Inside, she found a half-charged radio, a flare gun, and a survival pistol. Not much, but enough. The enemy drones circled overhead like vultures. One began descending, scanning for heat. Elena waited until it was close, then fired her flare gun directly into its camera eye. The drone spun wildly, systems fried, before crashing into the dunes. The explosion gave away her position. 2 more drones turned toward her instantly. All right, she muttered. Let's dance. At the base, the radar room erupted in noise. Multiple heat signatures on the ground detonations detected. Weller leaned over the console. Show me. A satellite feed came online, smoke plumes rising from a canyon. That's her, Hawk said, his voice low. Or what's left of her, Weller muttered. Haskins glared at him. I'm authorizing a rescue op. Weller shook his head. Negative. She's compromised. If her location is known, that means enemy forces are active. Sending a team would be suicide. Hawk slammed his fist. You'd rather leave her to die? She's trained for this, Weller said. If she's alive, she'd get out herself. Elena sprinted through the canyon as bullets and drones sliced the air around her. Dust filled her lungs, the roar of engines echoing off stone. She dove behind a boulder, pulling the radio from her pack. It crackled faintly. Double quotes ... 114th command. Respond if you copy ... It was Hawk's voice. Her breath hitched. She switched frequencies and spoke quietly. Hawk, it's Vega. Static. Then, Claire? Where are you? She smiled faintly. About 20 clicks east of the border ridge. But don't come for me. Too late. We're already in the air. Her smile faded. You idiot. Yeah, he said, but I'm your idiot. The transmission cut off as she heard engines in the distance, familiar ones this time. Moments later, two F-16s streaked across the sky, releasing flares. Hawk's jet dipped low, scanning for her. There, he shouted. Visual on target. Elena waved a flare, signaling. But before they could descend, a missile shot up from the canyon below, exploding near Hawk's tail. Damn it, Sam, fire. They've got launchers down there. Get clear, she yelled. Not without you. Before she could argue, Hawk fired two precision missiles into the canyon, collapsing part of the rock face. Then another explosion ripped through the air. His jet took a hit. Hawk, his voice crackled. Still flying barely. Elena ran toward the ridge, firing her sidearm at approaching mercenaries. She moved like a machine, every shot deliberate, every motion fueled by instinct. But one bullet grazed her shoulder, spinning her down into the dust. The mercenaries closed in, three of them, rifles raised. Then the ground shook as Hawk's crippled jet roared overhead, releasing a final bomb before ejecting. The explosion engulfed the mercenaries, sending debris raining down the canyon. Elena shielded her face, then looked up. Hawk's parachute drifted down nearby. She stumbled toward him, adrenaline overriding pain. When she reached him, he was dazed but alive. You're crazy, she said. He grinned weakly. Takes one to know one. She pulled him to his feet, supporting his weight as smoke rose behind them. Command, this is Vega, she said into the radio. Extraction needed. 2 survivors. Coordinates transmitting now. For a long moment, there was only static. Then Weller's voice came through. Copy that. Extraction inbound. Hours later, as the sun dipped low, 2 helicopters touched down in the canyon. Medics rushed out, tending to Hawk and Elena. Haskins himself was aboard one of the birds, his expression equal parts relief and confusion. As they lifted off, Weller's voice came through the combs. Welcome home, Vega. Elena's eyes narrowed. You used my real name. Weller paused. It's time the truth came out. You can't hide anymore. She looked out the window at the burning desert below, her reflection cold and tired. I wasn't hiding, she murmured. I was trying to start over. But she knew, deep down, that wasn't possible now. Her cover was blown. Her enemies knew she was alive. And the U.S. military would have to decide, was she a hero or a threat? The storm she'd been outrunning had finally caught up. And this time, it wasn't letting her go. The airbase had never been so silent. The rescue chopper's blades slowed to a stop on the tarmac, dust swirling in orange evening light. Soldiers and medics rushed forward, but the crowd that gathered wasn't there to welcome heroes. They were there to stare at the woman who had once been their pride. Elena Markova, formerly Lieutenant Claire Donovan, stepped down from the helicopter. Her arm was bandaged, her uniform scorched, but her posture was still perfectly straight. General Weller and Colonel Haskins stood waiting. Weller's face was stone. Lieutenant Donovan, he said coldly, or should I say, Captain Markova, welcome back. Hawk, limping beside her, shot the general a glare. She just saved my life again. Show some respect. But Elena said nothing. She simply raised her chin. If this is the part where you arrest me, she said, do it quickly. Weller nodded to the MPs. Take her to debrief. The click of handcuffs echoed through the hangar. The interrogation room was small, gray and freezing. A single light buzzed overhead. Elena sat at the table, her wrists bound, her expression unreadable. Across from her sat Major Elena Carter, a counterintelligence officer known for her precision and lack of mercy. She laid out a file thick with classified documents. "You've been living under a false name for 5 years," Carter began. "You infiltrated one of our most elite squadrons. You falsified records, lied under oath, and concealed your past as a foreign combatant. That's espionage by every definition of the word." Elena's gaze didn't waver. "If I were a spy, you'd never have found me." Carter frowned. "That's not an answer." "I defected to stop a war," Elena said calmly. "Your government knew that. Ask your general. He signed the deal." Carter flipped a page. "That was before your mission record was erased. Before 3 of your Russian counterparts went missing the same night you vanished. Before those same men resurfaced as mercenaries, flying stolen tech over our borders." Elena's jaw tightened. "You think they're here for me?" she said quietly. "I don't think," Carter replied. "I know. You're the reason they're back. And until we figure out whether you're still one of them, you're grounded, confined, and under investigation." Elena leaned back, eyes cold. "You can cage me. But the sky doesn't forget its ghosts." Outside the glass, General Weller watched silently. Colonel Haskins joined him. "She's not the enemy," Haskins said. "You saw what she did out there. She risked her life for our people." Weller sighed. "I don't question her skill. I question her loyalty." "You think she's working with those mercenaries?" "I think those mercenaries know her better than we do. And that makes her a liability." Haskins' eyes hardened. "If we treat her like one, she'll stop being our ally and start being exactly what you fear." Weller said nothing. He just turned away. In the barracks that night, the squadron was restless. Whispers rippled through the air. "She was Russian the whole time? Man, that explains everything. I don't care where she's from. She saved Reed's life." Reed, sitting at the far end, said nothing. His burns still hurt, but his pride hurt more. He remembered the moment she'd pulled him out of his falling jet, the calm voice that guided him when he froze. He also remembered the jealousy, the resentment that had nearly gotten them both killed. Now he wasn't sure what he felt. Meanwhile, Hawk paced outside the detention wing, frustration boiling in his chest. He'd filed 3 requests to see her, all denied. So he waited until the night guard switched shifts, and he slipped inside. The room was dimly lit, the window narrow and high. Elena sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. "Breaking the rules again," she said without looking up. He managed a weak grin. "Guess you're rubbing off on me." She turned to him, her expression softening. "You shouldn't be here." "I had to see you," Hawk said. "They're saying things that you lied, that you're dangerous. But I know who you are." "No," she said quietly. "You know who I pretended to be." He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. You saved all of us, twice." She gave a small, tired smile. "And that's exactly what makes me dangerous." Hawk frowned. "What are you talking about?" She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "The drones, the mercenaries. They weren't after your squadron. They were after me. The tech they're using, those flight patterns, they came from a program I helped build before I defected." Hawk's eyes widened. "You built them?" "I helped design the AI core. It was supposed to protect pilots. Instead, they turned it into a weapon." She looked down. "I tried to destroy it before I left. I failed." He exhaled slowly. "So they're coming to finish what you started." She nodded. "And anyone near me is collateral damage." For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the lights. Then Hawk reached for her hand. "You're not alone in this," he said firmly. She looked at him, genuinely shaken. "You don't understand, Hawk. If they get to me, they get to you too. Then they'll have to go through me first." For the first time, her mask cracked. "You're a fool," she whispered. "Yeah," he said, "but I'm your fool." The next morning, chaos erupted at the base. A leak had hit the media. News broadcasts blared headlines across every channel. U.S. pilot exposed as Russian ace. Government cover-up unfolds. Traitor or hero? The mystery of Vega. Reporters flooded the gates. Cameras flashed. The Pentagon demanded answers. General Weller was furious. "Who leaked this?" he barked. "We're dealing with a national scandal." Haskins snapped. "You made her a prisoner. Someone inside wants blood." "She made herself a prisoner," Weller growled. "Now she's everyone's problem." That afternoon, a closed hearing convened in a secure conference room. Alina sat between two guards, facing a panel of senior officers and intelligence officials. The press wasn't allowed in, but word of the ghost trial spread across every military channel. Weller presided at the center. "Captain Narkova," he began, "you stand accused of falsifying identity, unauthorized entry into military service, and potential collusion with foreign entities. Do you wish to make a statement?" Elena met his gaze. "I didn't come here to spy. I came to fly." "Fly?" he repeated coldly. "For which flag?" "For the one that let me live," she said quietly. "For the people who trusted me until today." A murmur rippled through the room. One of the officials leaned forward. "You claim the rogue drones are from your former country's program. Do you have proof?" She nodded. "Flight data, serial patterns, and the AI signatures embedded in their guidance systems. I recognized them the moment they attacked." Weller frowned. "You're saying they're using your designs?" "Yes, which means they're not done yet. If they attacked once, they'll strike again, and next time, they won't just come for me." The room fell silent. After the hearing, Alina was escorted back to confinement. But as she passed Hawk in the hallway, she caught his eye. He mouthed, "Stay strong." She gave a faint nod. That night, while base security monitored the perimeter, a coded transmission appeared on the radar network, encrypted, foreign, and brief. It contained only one line of text: "The ghost will return to the sky, or we will bring the sky down." General Weller's face drained of color as he read it. He turned to Haskins. "It's them. They know she's alive." Haskins stared at the message, then looked up. "Then maybe it's time we stop hiding her and start letting her fight back." Weller hesitated. "You want to give her a jet? After everything?" "She's the only one who can stop them," Haskins said. "You said it yourself. They're flying her ghosts." Weller exhaled slowly. "If this goes wrong, it's on you." Haskins nodded. "Then I'll take that risk." Down in her cell, Elena sat alone in the dim light when the door opened. Colonel Haskins stepped inside, holding a flight suit. "Suit up, Captain," he said. "We've got a mission." She blinked. "You're reinstating me?" He gave a grim smile. "Not officially. Call it an unsanctioned favor." She stood, took the suit, and for the first time in days, allowed herself to breathe. As she zipped up the uniform, the call sign Vega caught the fluorescent light like a ghost reborn. Outside, the hangar doors opened to the night. Her jet waited, repaired, gleaming, and ready. Hawk stood beside it, already suited up. "Guess we're breaking a few more rules," he said. She smirked. "Wouldn't be the first time." Together, they climbed into their cockpits. Engines roared to life, flooding the night with thunder. As the jets lifted off, Weller watched from the control tower, shaking his head. "God help us all," he muttered. The night sky over the Nevada desert was black velvet stitched with stars. 2 fighter jets cut across it, sleek, silent, and unauthorized. Inside the lead cockpit, Elena Viga Markova adjusted her oxygen mask, eyes fixed on the radar. The second blip, Hawk's jet, stayed tight on her wing. "Still with me?" she asked through comms. "Always," Hawk replied. "Though I can't believe we're actually doing this." "You wanted to fly," she said dryly. "This is flying." "Yeah," he muttered, straight into a court-martial. Elena allowed herself a faint smile. Only if we lived to attend it. They were flying toward an unmarked section of airspace, a no-fly zone recently scrambled by the Pentagon. Satellite intel showed unidentified heat signatures moving in formation, low and fast, across the border. It was them, her ghosts. The mercenary squadron, known as the Revenants, led by a man she once called her brother, Mikhail Sokolov, codename Phantom. A lifetime ago, they'd trained together under the same flag. Now they hunted her. "Vega, this is Control." Haskin's voice crackled through their private channel. "Do you copy?" Loud and clear, Elena answered. "You're 20 minutes from the intercept zone. The Pentagon doesn't know you're up there. If they find out, they'll shoot us down," she finished. "I'm aware. Just bring them home, Vega. Dead or alive." There was a pause. "I'll try," she said. "But ghosts don't come home, Colonel." The first radar ping came 15 minutes later. 6 fast-moving targets, altitude dropping. Their vector, straight toward a civilian air corridor. "They're masking under commercial routes," Hawk realized. "Smart. That's Mikhail," she murmured. "Always liked using the blind spots." Her fingers tightened on the throttle. Time to remind him he's not the only one who knows how to disappear. They climbed higher, breaking through a thin layer of cloud. Lightning flickered on the horizon, a storm rolling in, painting the sky with silver veins. Elena's AI system chirped a warning. Multiple lock-ons detected. "Contact." Hawk shouted. "They see us." 6 dark shapes broke from the clouds, black jets with no insignia, slicing through the night like shadows. Missiles streaked toward them. "Evasive." Elena barked. She dove, flipping her jet in a high-G barrel roll as the missile screamed past. Hawk banked left, flares cutting through the rain. Explosions lit up the clouds like fireworks. "Vega, one's on my tail." Hawk called. "I've got you." She looped behind him, guns roaring. Tracer fire ripped across the darkness, shredding the pursuer's wing. The enemy jet spiraled out in flames. "One down," Hawk breathed. 5 to go, she replied. The guns crackled again, this time a familiar voice, heavy with a Russian accent. "You shouldn't have come, Sestra." Elena froze. "Mikhail, you traded your country for their mercy," he said. "And now you fly their flag like a dog." "I traded war for peace," she shot back. "You turned peace into business." "Peace?" He sneered. "There is no peace. There are only survivors. And you stopped being one of us the day you ran." "Mikhail, enough talk. Let's see if the legend still remembers how to die." The channel cut. Seconds later, Phantom's jet screamed past hers, cannons blazing. The sky erupted. Hawk and Vega wove through tracer fire and lightning as the Revenants closed in. Elena flipped into a vertical climb, twisting through turbulence. Rain hammered her canopy. Alarm screamed. "Two's on your 6. Hawk yelled. "I see him." She released her air brakes suddenly. Her jet slowed midair, forcing the pursuer to overshoot. One squeeze of the trigger, and the enemy exploded into fire. "Nice move," Hawk said. "Old habits. Yeah, remind me never to play cards with you." She smiled grimly. "You'd lose anyway." But Mikhail was no ordinary pilot. His jet appeared behind Hawk's, moving like smoke. "Vega, he's got tone on me." Hawk shouted. "Break right." He did, but too late. A missile streaked past, clipping his tail. His jet lurched. "I'm hit. Control sluggish. Eject." "Negative." "Still got power." "Damn it, Hawk. Don't be a hero." Too late for that. His jet rolled, diving toward the storm. Elena's heart pounded. She flipped her fighter upside down and dove after him, the world spinning in gray and lightning. Rain slashed across the canopy as she locked on to Mikhail's heat signature. "Come on, old friend," she whispered. "Dance with me." For 5 brutal minutes they dueled, looping, rolling, diving. Two masters bound by the same instincts, the same ghosts. Mikhail taunted her overcomes. "You can't win. You never could." She smiled tightly. "Then why are you running?" She cut her engines mid-spin, letting his sensors lose lock, then reignited, appearing behind him in an instant. Her missile fired. A bright flash tore through the storm. "Got him!" Hawk shouted weakly from below. But Elena didn't celebrate. The smoke trail twisted and vanished. Mikhail's voice returned, colder than ever. "Still too slow, Vega." Before she could react, a second enemy jet appeared out of the clouds, his wingman. It fired. Her sensors screamed. Impact. Her right wing erupted in sparks. The jet lurched violently, alarms blaring. "Vega, talk to me." Hawk yelled. "I'm fine," she gritted. "Just cosmetic damage." "You're trailing fire." "Then I'll light up the sky." The storm grew worse, lightning flashing so bright it blinded her. Her jet systems flickered, radar glitching, altitude dropping. "Vega, pull up," Hawk cried. She didn't. Instead, she dove straight toward the ground, a maneuver no sane pilot would attempt. Mikhail followed, confident. At the last second, she yanked the stick and fired flares. Lightning hit the ground a moment later, the explosion masking her turn. When the smoke cleared, she was behind him. "Goodbye, brother." She pulled the trigger. Her missile streaked forward and hit true. Mikhail's jet disintegrated in a blinding flash. For a heartbeat, she saw his plane break apart, then vanish into the storm. Silence filled the comms. Hawk exhaled shakily. "He's gone." Elena said nothing. Only the rain answered. They limped back toward base, both jets damaged, fuel low. As the runway lights appeared through the fog, Hawk spoke softly. "You did what you had to." She stared ahead. No one wins a duel with a ghost. Then why do it? To make sure no one else has to. When they landed, emergency crews swarmed the tarmac. Haskins was waiting, relief and anger mixed on his face. "You two have any idea what you've done?" He barked. Hawk grinned weakly. "Saved the country again?" Haskins sighed. "Or started an international incident." Elena climbed down from her jet, every muscle trembling. "The revenants are finished." But Mikhail wasn't working alone. "What?" "He said we." "That means there's someone higher, funding them, guiding them." "This isn't over." Haskins' face darkened. "Then we better find out who." Hours later, alone in the hangar, Helena stood beside her battered jet. The word Vega was scorched, half gone. She reached out, brushing the metal. "You and me," she whispered. "One more flight, and we're done." From behind, Hawk's voice was soft. "You think they'll ever let you fly again?" She turned, weary but defiant. "They can clip my wings, but they can't make me forget the sky." He smiled. "Then let's make sure they don't either." She looked out at the horizon, where dawn was beginning to break, the clouds glowing pink and gold. The ghosts of the storm had passed, but new shadows were already forming. The desert morning was eerily quiet. The only sound was the hum of repair crews prepping the battered jets for one last mission. Elena Vega Markova stood in the hangar, studying the latest satellite intel. Her arm was still sore from the last skirmish, and Hawk leaned against the wall, checking weapon systems. "Final flight?" he asked. Elena nodded, her eyes narrowing at the screens. "Not just final for us, final for them." The data confirmed it. The drone attacks had a single source, a mastermind orchestrating the entire mercenary network. Someone who had access to top-level tech, military-grade drones, and satellite feed manipulation. "Who is it?" Hawk asked. She pressed a finger to the screen. "Admiral Vasily Petrov, my former commander. He survived the border mission that I escaped from. Now he's using his influence to weaponize the drones I once helped design." Hawk whistled. A ghost and a villain in one package. Charming. Elena ignored him. "He's not just after me. He wants control of the skies over North America. That's why the civilian corridors were targeted. We stop him here, or it won't just be our lives. It'll be countless innocents." Inside the mission control room, General Weller, Colonel Haskins, and a select few watched the briefing. "Vasily Petrov," Weller said grimly, "a former Russian admiral, high-ranking strategist, now working through mercenary networks. Threat level, catastrophic. Do not underestimate." Haskins looked at Elena. "You're the only one who can go in. Officially, you're still confined." She tilted her head. "Then consider me unofficially authorized." Hawk snorted. "I like that chain of command." The mission was deceptively simple. Infiltrate the remote canyon where Petrov's forces had established a drone command hub. Disable the drones and neutralize Petrov himself. Elena ran a final systems check. These drones will be coordinated with anti-air turrets. Timing has to be precise. We approach low, fast, and silent. Hawk tightened his helmet strap. Low and silent. Got it. Sounds easy enough. Elena shot him a hard look. Easy enough to die. Let's stay alive. With engines roaring, the jets lifted off under the cover of pre-dawn darkness. Over the canyon, the landscape shifted, jagged rock formations, deep crevices, and the faint shimmer of radar installations. "Sensors picking up multiple heat signatures," Hawk said. 3 turrets, 8 active drones, 2 command centers, Elena muttered. "We'll need a distraction." She engaged a low-profile maneuver, diving between cliffs, engines nearly whisper quiet. Hawk followed in perfect formation. The first volley of drones erupted from the rocks, guns blazing. Fox 1. Elena fired a missile that struck mid-air, tearing one drone apart. Hawk's jet twisted around another pursuing drone, releasing flares that blinded its sensors. Explosions lit up the canyon like fireworks. Despite the chaos, Elena's focus never wavered. Years of training and instinct merged, every decision, every maneuver calculated to perfection. The enemy command center came into view, a reinforced bunker with radar arrays spinning. "They fortified this well," Hawk said. "How do we get through without blowing ourselves up?" Elena smiled grimly. "We don't. We go through with precision." She released a pair of precision missiles. One struck the northern turret. The second tore through the central drone hangar. Sparks and smoke rose in a violent plume. Petrov's men scrambled, but Elena didn't pause. She dipped her jet into a near-impossible canyon path, dodging incoming fire, while Hawk mirrored her movements. Then the unthinkable happened. Petrov appeared in the sky, a jet upgraded beyond standard military specs, black as midnight, sleek and deadly. Its eye-assisted targeting systems locked onto Elena instantly. "Vega," a distorted voice crackled over comms. "You can't hide. You are always mine to command." Elena's knuckles whitened on the stick. "Not anymore. The two pilots engaged in a lethal ballet above the canyon, twisting through cloud cover, dodging missiles, and firing with precision. Hawk focused on the drones, clearing a path for Elena to face Petrov. "I've got the flank." "Good. Don't get yourself killed," she shot back. Petrov's maneuvers were lethal, loops, rolls, dives at impossible speeds. Elena mirrored him, matching instinct with skill. Each pass brought them closer. Then she remembered a tactic she had taught Mikhail long ago, a move Petrov wouldn't expect. With a sudden stall turn mid-air, she disappeared behind a cloud, reappearing directly above Petrov. One missile fired, and the Admiral's jet erupted in a spectacular fireball. For a moment, the sky was silent. Elena didn't waste it. She descended into the canyon, firing at the remaining drones with pinpoint accuracy. Hawk destroyed the turrets, clearing a path for extraction. The command hub began to collapse, explosions echoing against the cliffs. Smoke and dust swirled around them. Extraction point in sight. Hawk called. Elena exhaled, adrenaline mixing with relief. "Let's get out of here." They flew low, engines roaring, just as a final volley of drones attempted to intercept. Elena and Hawk evaded, weaving through canyons like phantoms. Finally, the U.S. Air Force helicopters touched down at the extraction point. They landed amid smoke and debris. Back at Edwards Air Base, Elena and Hawk were greeted with a mix of awe, relief, and tension. General Weller met them in the hangar. "You two have just prevented a catastrophe of unimaginable scale," he said. "I can't officially commend you, but I'll make sure your actions are noted." Hawk grinned. "Noted? I want medals." Elena ignored him, looking at the horizon. The sun was rising, bathing the base in gold light. She felt something she hadn't in years, the calm of a job done, of justice served. Days later, the official report went public. Elena's heroism was recognized, but so was her past. Media outlets ran headlines. "Rookie pilot revealed as Russian ace saves. Use from drone catastrophe. Vega returns. Hero or threat." Inside the base, she met with Colonel Haskins and Hawk. "You okay?" Hawk asked. Elena nodded. "I am now. The past. It's finally finished." Haskins added, "Don't disappear again. You belong here now, for better or worse." She smiled faintly. "I think I've earned the right to decide that myself." Months later, Elena stood on the tarmac, her jet ready, engines humming softly. Hawk joined her. "Going for a spin?" he asked. She nodded. "One last flight. For me, for them, for everyone who never got a chance to say goodbye." Together, they soared into the sky, two silhouettes against the dawn. Below, the desert stretched endlessly, a reminder of every battle, every risk, every ghost left behind. And above, the sky was theirs, free, open, and waiting. Elena Markova, once a ghost, had returned, not as a weapon, not as a fugitive, but as a hero who had finally found where she belonged. The ghosts of her past were gone, and the sky finally was at peace.